Cool. Okay, we'll just get straight into it. So, just an intro on who you are, and maybe where you're from.
Yeah. Kia ora everyone, I'm Adrian Pritchard, I'm from Hawke's Bay, the mighty bay, and lived there most of my life in Hastings, and man.
Winning.
Oh,
You
it
ever
was
lived
hard.
anywhere else?
Yeah, I lived in Aussie, I don't really call it living, partied in Aussie and partied in America,
Oh.
but I always, my hometown has always been Hastings,
Yeah.
You always come back to hometown.
Yeah,
And
hard out.
so it's massive, so
Fucking
that's
me.
where I'm from.
Awesome. And what made you want to share your story on the Let Me Speak campaign today?
I believe in what you do, for one, but I think even if we can help one person,
Yeah.
that's going to be worthwhile helping, eh?
Yeah.
And I know how powerful the addiction world is in New Zealand anyway. And so when I heard the Let Me Speak campaign, I don't know, I just sent an email out to say, hey, I'm in there. I didn't expect to be chosen, but anyway, it's a blessing to be here.
Awesome.
To share my story and journey, and we all got stories and we all got journeys.
And we're honoured to be listening to your story.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks, Nix.
with that being said, where does your journey with addiction begin?
Well, my journey with addiction is like I got brought up with a mum and dad. I can't say I was a single parent,
Yeah.
I was a single parent child. I got brought up with my mum and dad, but I saw a lot as a child, like the old saying, the windows of your, what is it, your eyes are the windows of your heart.
Yeah.
What you see can grow what's in your heart. So as a child, I saw a lot of abuse in my family, a lot of partying, a lot of sex parties, a lot of all sorts of alcohol, and like I said, a lot of stuff what a child shouldn't have seen.
How old do you reckon you were, roughly around that age?
I would have been, what I can remember, I would have been from 5 to 8.
Those are pretty crucial years, eh? Where
crucial
you're
years.
Absorbing fucking
all
everything
the
you're
shit
seeing.
going on
Yeah.
at the time. And don't get me wrong, I'm definitely not blaming my mum and dad for the way I lived my life, but that's just
I think there was a lot of parents in that back then during those times as well.
Yeah,
eh?
back
It
in
was
the
just the
70s,
norms.
80s, yeah. So yeah, you're right, Nick. It's like parties, like we could leave the party all weekend, leave the house unlocked, and still come home and the place is still good.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I grew up and I went to boys' high, but my parents separated when I was 15.
Yeah.
My mum took off, and when I came home, I saw a letter from my mother addressed to my father on a pool table, and it was an open letter. It wasn't in an envelope or anything, so I saw it. And I don't know if you realise, but at that time, because I grew up with my mum's gone now. So as a 15-year-old, this is the time, as a teenager, I probably needed my mum and dad the most at this time. So I felt my life changed from then, but I stepped back a little bit. When I was 8, I used to roam the streets a lot, and I got molested when I was a youngster in a public toilet. I got kidnapped and thrown in the car and got raped by a man. And I'm healed in that area now, so I can share that openly. And
were you on your own at that time when you were roaming the streets?
Yeah, I was by myself, and it was, but I was looking for a role model because I wasn't getting it at home. Yeah. And then about 3 years, that went on for about 3 years. I got groomed by this guy, and I kept on searching for him because I thought he was my dad. It was sad. But then at one of our parties at home, I got molested by a female. So I grew up hating a male, and I grew up hating females. It's sad to say. And so my sticky plaster was drug abuse.
So when that happened, did you know that was wrong, what they were doing?
No, to me it wasn't, because I already grew up at a young age, like I said, with pornography in our home.
Yeah.
So I at a 5 or 6 year old, I already had that mentality of porn. So I thought that was the norm thing. That's what happens.
Yeah.
That's what I thought anyway as a child. And so
So you didn't question it?
No, I didn't question it. I didn't go to the cops. And even if I did talk to my dad about it or my mum, they probably would have just slapped me around the head and said, "You're dreaming, son." So I wasn't really in that I wasn't really, I couldn't talk to anyone, so I was out there doing my own thing. And like I said, as I grew up, and then that woman, and when I think I was about 10 or 11, I can't get the ages.
Yeah.
You know, it was...
Probably parts of you that blocked that
and then a
out.
female molested me, and that was not so bad because it's a female. I was the other sex, so I don't know. But I was young, so I didn't know what to do, how to do it, all I saw was this crap. I lived as a young person with porn in my mind. So when I grew up, I kind of had that mentality of that's what women are for. It's just as sex objects.
Yeah.
And it's really sad now as I look at my life now. It's like I'm married and I've got 3 daughters, and I think, mate, just imagine if they viewed that as a younks, I couldn't believe.
But
so,
you've also got to think about the tools that you were given, eh?
Yeah.
How could you think otherwise when actually this was your only outlook that you had been given, eh?
Yeah. And you're right, Nick's like, if you don't have a good tool in the toolbox, and you grow up thinking, man,
well,
I've got a hammer and I've got a crowbar. It's not the good way of living a life. But as and like I said, I'm not here to point the finger at my mum and dad. That's definitely not my kaupapa. That's not where I come from.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like there was a mixture of things that contributed to what happened to you later on in life, eh?
Yeah. You're right. And that's where there's always a root. You didn't wake up one night and say, I'm going to become a meth addict or I'm going to become a heroin addict.
Yeah.
There's always a root issue. And until you realise where that root issue comes from, you can't deal with your addiction properly.
Yep.
And that's where I got, like, I took 40 years, like I'm 51 now, and it took 40 years for me to open up about my being molested, because when you go to jail, and I spent years and years in jail and with the gangs and all that, you don't say, oh, hello, I've been molested, could you help me? It doesn't happen. So as I went out, like I went to Aussie, I gapped it when my mum took off when I was 15. My mate got murdered first in Hastings. I was at his flat, and a gang member. When I talk about gangs, I don't say names.
Yeah,
for privacy reasons. And but a gang member came up to our flat and shot my mate in the head and killed him straight away.
Right in front of you?
And right in front of us. So that was another trauma.
Yeah.
So I got molested, was a trauma. I just faced a murder case, what was a trauma.
And how old were you when that happened?
Just turned 15.
Fuck.
My mum just left, and I because I didn't want to stay at home because my dad was going to go ballistic with my mum taking off and all that sort of stuff. So I stayed with my friend in Hastings, and he got murdered. So that was the end of that. And I thought, wow, man. And we were so young, the cops couldn't do much at that time. They caught the guy, and the guy got life in prison, but my heart was like totally shattered. It was like, wow, man, my brother, my bro who was helping me at this time, just been shot dead. So from there, I packed my bags at 16 and shot the gap to Australia. And I got caught up with the underground bikie scene over there, and in Sydney, and I was running prostitutes, and I was a pimp for hookers and ladies, prostitutes or working girls. And I did that for a year, and it was good money as a 16-year-old. You got drugs, you got good money.
How did you get into that? Did you have whānau over there? Or?
I had whānau living in a place called Burwood in Sydney.
Yeah.
And so it took me probably about 2 weeks to find where they were. I was sleeping on the beach at Bondi for a while, and then I found out where they were, found out where their clubhouse was, and I connected, and then they said, oh, well, you aren't going to just hang around here.
Do fuck all.
Put
you to work.
do fuck all for no, we want to make you earn your keep here.
Wow.
So and it was good. Like as a 16-year-old, I was making $3,000 a week, so I was rocking it. And then the cocaine came in, and the angel dust came in back in our day, and the heroin came in, and I didn't even know what to do with the needle. What's this thing for?
What was your first experience with one of those hard drugs, or when you first got over there? Do you remember?
It was awesome. It was like my first time I had. I can remember it was about 10 mils of heroin in a needle, and it was already filled up with and the lady came up to me and said, I can do it for you. So she held my arm and blasted me up, and it was like, mate, it was like I was walking in heaven. It was like, wow, man, this is massive. And that's where it hit me.
Yeah.
Heroin is you only can do it. It's similar to pee. You do it once and you can be hooked straight away.
Yeah.
And but I didn't like the coming down with it. So that's where the cocaine gave me put me back up.
Yeah.
So it was heroin and then cocaine, and then I came down off a binge, and this went on for a year in Sydney, and I was spending like a $3,500 a week habit on just feeding my
So
addiction.
all that money you were
making it was going back in, and it was good because I had the clubhouse to stay at, so I didn't have to pay accommodation or anything like that. So it was really good, but I got stabbed up in Australia by a revival gang, and I just about died. So that sent me back to New Zealand. That gave me a bit of an eye opener, and I thought, this is not a teenage game, mate. This is the boys. The boys got
the
big
real
toys
deal.
here. They got guns and knives here. So I came back to New Zealand, and I stayed here for about 6 months, and I did a big crime here, and I got a lot of money, so I gapped it to LA, gapped it to Hollywood, smacked it over there, because I wanted to become either a hitman or a rock star. I became a nothing. Here I am living back in Hastings now. But I went to America and spent about $10,000 on heroin and cocaine, and walked to Hollywood Boulevard and Sunset Strip. And
Did you even know anyone over there? Or?
No, I wanted to, because I don't know if some of you older people might know, there was a band called Motley Crue back in the day, and the guy Vince Neil, he got kicked out of the band. So one of my mates in New Zealand, I was singing for a band called for a while, Riff Raff. Hello, all you freaky people who followed us back in the day. But he said, bro, you're a good screamer. Why don't you try to hit America, mate, and try to audition for Motley Crue? And I went, oh yeah, that's a good idea. I had 10 grand in the bank. I had about 15 grand in the bank. So I bought my ticket, a return ticket, but I went over there and tried to find out where all the auditions was, but I couldn't find anyone. So I found drug dealers pretty good. So yeah, I was a little Kiwi man walking the streets of Hollywood and Beverly Hills and hanging out and just pinging up and partying. And when I came back to New Zealand, I was over there only for about a month. And I came back to New Zealand, and my own parents couldn't even recognise me. I fell off the plane, and I rolled off the plane. I got arrested in the Wellington airport for a crime I did before I left. I tried to light the Napier airport on fire, so I was wanted for arson.
Holy fucking hell.
So I was a menace, but the cops used to call me I didn't need a gang to help me. I was just a menace. I was just one of those kids who
I got nothing to fucking lose?
I just wanted to create fun. I always loved having fun. I always wanted fun, and it was not the best of fun, but it was fun for me. And so I lit the Napier airport on fire, and then I gapped it to America. And when I came back, I got arrested at the Wellington airport. So that's why not that I don't like Wellington. It just brings back a bit of past in my life. But my crime, and I was probably in my early 20s at that time. I was going on to 21. That's right. I was going to have my 21st in Hastings. But I couldn't find anyone, because when you travel around, you lose contact with people. So I ended up going to Gisborne, and where my mum was, and and that was boring. Once you've been to Hollywood and you've been to Aussie, mate, you're going to Gisborne, it was like, man, this town's suckful. So I ended up in Auckland. And I stayed in Auckland, and my crime just went to the next level in Auckland. I got caught up with a hole in the wall gang, and we were stealing cranes and pushing cash point machines out of walls, and we were, breaking.
And were you getting lit?
Getting high. We were all high. You have to be high to do that sort of stuff. Because anxiousness. You don't burgle someone's place straight. I don't. I never did, because it was like pretty scary as it is. So and by that time we were full on junkies. We were pinging up 4 or 5 times a day. And heroin and cocaine, and it wasn't so much pee back in our day. It was more what it was called crank. back in our day, and it was brown rocks and all that sort of stuff. And we had home bake, we had synthetics, home bake. We had all sorts of stuff going on.
Big old cocktails.
Misties. We had Valiums. We had all sorts of stuff going on back in our day. So, not saying it isn't happening today. It's just our day was probably a lot more available. Like people were doing ram raids on chemists and taking methadone and smacking people over for their methadones and just to blast it up our arm and all that. So this went on for a long time, for 10 years actually. My lifestyle as an addict went on for 10 years, but then I did an armed robbery and a kidnap in Auckland, in Mount Albert, and that's what killed it. Because it started, I kidnapped this Indian guy and done an arm on his supermarket, and I ended up getting arrested and obviously get arrested for that sort of stuff. And I went to Mount Eden prison, so I stayed in Mount Eden prison. Then I escaped from Mount Eden prison. I was the only. There's three of us. I don't know if there's anyone else at the moment, but the three of us would actually succeeded to escape from Mount Eden prison. So give me a clap. No. So I escaped twice from Mount Eden prison. I got caught. The first time I got caught in Gisborne, and then they sent me back to Mount Eden prison.
How the fuck do you even do that?
Oh, mate, I had a mate who I could jump up on a shop. I went to the drug unit in Mount Eden where the walls were high. I think they were about 8 foot high, but I had a mattress, because in the drug unit you could take your foam mattress out in the yard and just lie there and relax and chill out and peace. And I said to my mate, bro, I could jump over that wall and end up in the motorway. And he said, no, don't do it, bro. Don't do it. And I said, yeah, I want to do it. So I got him to lean down and I jumped on his back and I tucked my mattress on the foam. And as soon as you hit that wire, the alarm goes off.
Yeah.
So I chucked the mattress and I rolled over and I landed on the other side of the fence, and I thought, I'm stuffed now, mate. But the fence was right by the motorway. So I cracked my ankles, but I ended up running. And I rang up my mate and Riverhead at the time. And I said, could you come and pick me up, mate? He said, but you're in prison. I said, I'm not no more. I'm out. And he said, no, you escaped. I can't pick you up. He was freaking out. I said, just take me to a motel anywhere, mate. I don't want to have an argument on the phone. Just get me. So he picked me up and took me back to Riverhead. He said, don't tell my missus, man, whatever happened. And I said, no. So I stayed with him for about 2 nights. And then I ended up in Whakampiri and I did the runner. But that was the second time I got caught down Shakespeare Road. And that was it. I wasn't sent back to Mount Eden. I was sent straight to Perry, and all that was. And then a wise inmate came up to me and said, "Bro, write a letter to the judge to say you're a drug addict, you need help, you need rehab, mate." Yeah. And so I thought, oh yeah, give that a go. And I wrote this real, broken ass.
Heartfelt. Yeah.
I couldn't spell to save myself, so I wrote this letter to the judge, and she gave me bail to Odyssey House. And I thought, wow, that's heavy. So I stayed in Odyssey House for about 6 months. I thought, I better play the game now. And I would have been about 24 at this time. And then I did my rehab, and then I sentenced...
just in that thing of years, you've lived the whole fucking life.
I say to people, I missed probably the age of 13, well actually when I got molested, because my will was blurred from about probably 8 years old to about 24, I missed those years. I knew I travelled and I did all this stuff, but it was like a big blur. Big, just your mind was clouded. So I ended up going to rehab, and then I went to for my sentencing time, and my lawyer said, if you've got to transfer back to Hawke's Bay, they probably a lot more lenient on you.
Yeah.
You'll be looking at about 10 to 12 years anyway. So I went, oh yeah, okay, thanks lawyer, I'm going to sack you because I want to get off. I don't want to hear that. So I went back to Hastings, and I got a lawyer there, and he said, oh, you might get about 5 years. And I went, I'll keep you on, because you have to go to jail for
you got to pay
kind of fucking... Something like that. So I ended up getting, but I had those 2 escapes on my record, so I ended up getting 8.5 years for my robbery, plus 2 years for... So it was about 10.5. But by the time I did my time, I got out. I think I did about 8 years because they
Yeah.
good behaviour and all that sort of crazy stuff. So here I am now locked up in jail. So I had to get my addiction, and I was a hero of addiction. Like I said, I had a $3,000, $3,500 habit, mate. So
Yeah.
I was coming off real fast.
And what was that like?
Oh, it was horrible. It was a nightmare. And in jail, they don't have any sympathy for that.
Yeah.
They think, well, too bad, son. Here you are now. So, but I had a lovely prison warden who used to bring me lemon and honey drinks, and she used to bring her lemons off her tree, and she used to make me hot drinks with honey in it, and come down off the stuff, and she used to watch it. I was on 24-hour watch for about 4 weeks at jail as I was coming down off my. But my addiction was, all my years of being an addict was just an identity for me. It was just like I felt good.
Yeah.
That was a feel-good thing.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know where I would fit in this world. I didn't know if I became a rock star, massive, if I became a porn star, or even better. But if I didn't become either. I became a criminal and an inmate.
The other rock star.
Yeah, I was getting rocks chucked at me. Yeah, no. But so I stayed in prison. I had to stay there, and I was kind of over my lifestyle. I thought actually prison saved my life.
Yes.
Because if I carried on doing that, I would have been dead. I would have OD'd or something would have happened.
Were you just getting fucking tired?
Yeah. My body was run down. Like when I went into Grafton Road Detox Centre here in we're in Wellington, but in Auckland, the detox doctor said your body at that time I was 24, your body looked like a 50-year-old, my age now. And you know, you hear these, if you don't give up smoking, you're going to die. Of course you're going to die one day, but he said if you don't give up using heroin the way you are, you won't even see 25. And so I went to prison, and so I kind of, it saved my life because I still could, I had a blast of heroin in prison. But I kind of was like you said, Nick, so I was over it. My body was tired. I was dying inside. I was traumatized. I needed to deal with my life. Otherwise, I might as well just, get rid of my life. So I stayed in prison, and that's when my addiction stopped.
What kind of steps did you take in prison to get yourself back to normal? Did they offer anything in there, like supports or? Yeah,
they offered they just started a AVP course, Alternative Violence Program, which wasn't anything to do with that addiction. I think back in our day, you had to just white line it. You just had to deal with your addiction, and you couldn't get methadone unless you were on the methadone program. When you went in, you couldn't get it, and if you were, you had to stay in a special unit. You weren't allowed in mainstream. So I wanted to get out of the special unit, and I wanted to get into the mainstream because I still had anger, and so I wanted to fight. I wanted to get rid of my addiction. So I thought I want to fight and rumble out with other gangs and let's see what's going on. So that's what I did. I went in, and if you look on TV, 2020 did a story on me, and they interviewed an old prison warden who knew me, and they said, Adrian was a very angry man. Only because I tried to kill him. I just thought, because when you come off addictions, you have all this. You have all this crap going on in your life. You feel rejected. You feel angry. You feel like, where's my life is heading? So when I started to think straight, all I could see was anger rising up in me, and I started to deal with it. So that's why they put me on the AVP program to try to mellow me out a little bit, and it worked. And we went out in the community, and I said sorry to some of my people I hurt back in the day, and it was, forgiveness is powerful. Like if you truly forgive people from your heart, it's actually not for them, it's for you. And that's what I did. I started to forgive people in my heart, and 2020 followed me around the Mutu, followed me around New Zealand to talk to people I've hurt and stuff like that. So when I came out of prison, I started to live with these lovely Christian people. Today I'm a Christian, and I'm not ashamed to say that. Because that was my go-to. That's who helped me, and it wasn't an easy get out of the jail card. People say, if you go to church, bro, you get out of jail, for me it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
I still had to do my full time. So I needed something. I needed something. And anyway, these people came, I lived with after I got out of jail, and they didn't actually know me very well. They only knew me from prison.
Yeah.
And they used to come in and do Bible studies and all that sort of stuff. So when I got out, I lived with them, and but it wasn't easy because I lost contact with all my mates, and but I still had that mentality. It was like a dry drunk. I still had that. I might have not been using, but I still had that mentality of an addict.
Yeah.
And took me, and then didn't take me long to get back into my old gang friends and stuff like that. And then I relapsed big time. I started to ping up again.
How long had you been out when you relapsed?
I think I was out for about 3 years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 3 years before I relapsed. And then I relapsed hard for 6 months, and then I stopped because I knew where it was going to head.
Yeah.
And then I ended up going off to a Bible college for a while, and then I stayed clean for about 18 years after that.
Holy fuck.
Yeah. So
what was that pivotal moment? So you've relapsed, you're going hard for 6 months. What's that moment and you think, nah, fuck this?
I think once you've been clean for a while, it's hard to do a successful relapse. I don't know.
Yeah.
You kind of know what the clean life's like. So when you actually relapse, it's suckful. It's like, oh no, I know where this is going to lead, and it's going to get worse because I've been clean for 3 years or 4 years, and boom, you're back into it again, and you end up becoming worse, I think. But like I said, I was clean for 18 years after the relapse, but then I relapsed again.
After 18 years?
Yeah, after 18 years, and this was back in 2019.
So what's life looking like? 18 years later, for you to say, fuck it, I'm going to give it another blast.
I was like in those 18 years of me being clean, I got married, and I had a lovely wife. I still got my wife, and 3 beautiful daughters. But me and my wife at that time were going through a lot of stuff. A lot of, after 18 years, like I've been married to her for 20 years, going on 20 years, but you think you would get, you would know each other and stuff like that. But all my married life, and I'm definitely not blaming her, but a lot of myself was a part of our taki. It was like I wasn't secure. I didn't know how to treat a woman. Here she was. She got raised up with a good family. She wasn't an addict. She wasn't a gang member. She was nothing. She lived a real Christian life most of her life. So I didn't know how to respect this woman. So it did my head in. And so I went back to I was married and living with her, but I felt like a boarder. I felt like I was a flatmate. So I ended up getting back involved with my old clubs, and then I started using again just to mask all that. As you got older, I felt, oh man, what am I doing? I couldn't get a job because of my criminal record. I couldn't get a career because all this stuff was coming back to me and
to haunt you.
To haunt me, and I felt really rejected. So I thought, I know something to sticky plaster this. So I tried the meth.
Something I'm good at.
Yeah, something I feel, and people accept you. So I got back to that, but 2 of my close mates died in the middle of that last relapse, and that's what killed it. And today I can totally say I'm totally clean, and I will stay clean for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Because I'm 50, and my body can't handle it anymore. But not just that, my wife kind of given me another chance, and she said, if you ever go back, it's going to be the end of that.
Yeah.
So you've got to sacrifice stuff in your life. And like to me, if you believe in your wahine and you believe you love her, then you have to do everything you can to help her.
Yeah.
And as a guy, I think we're supposed to be a provider and a protector. If we aren't doing that, then what are we doing? And for me, that's what I feel like I really need to do. And that's why Let Me Speak campaign and stuff like that. We need to get involved more. And, we need to speak honestly about relapses and stuff. I can't say, I've been clean 18 years, hallelujah. believe me, it wasn't like that. It was a roller coaster.
Yeah.
You know.
Because when you get clean, you have to learn everything from scratch, eh? If a stressful situation comes around, you can't go run over here and self-medicate.
That's right.
To be able to deal with it. You have to fucking learn, oh shit, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Now, how the hell do I deal with this?
Yeah. And then you hit the nail on the head, you've got to, when you get clean, you've got to learn the principles of how you can manage, or not so much manage, but how to control your urges because shit does happen in your life.
Yeah.
No matter if you're going through a divorce or whatever happens, you've got to understand you can't go back to the needle or your addiction. So you've got to learn a principle of how can I control it. If you go to the gym, pump iron, awesome, do that.
Yeah.
You know, or boxing bag or run or whatever. And that's what I'm into now. I'm right into the gym and stuff like that, because when shit does happen, you know, like I'm back with my wife and all that, but we still have issues, you know?
Yeah.
And so I can't say, I'm going to go back and have a blast.
So what are your tools that you have in your belt now to help you in stressful situations?
I have accountability around me. Like I said, I've got a counsellor who's been my counsellor for 20 years.
Oh.
I go and talk to her.
Yeah.
I've got my local pastor who I can talk to any time I ring up when things going on, and I go to the gym and mix with people. I think isolation is the devil's syndicate. I believe if you isolate yourself, you're going to have all sorts of, and reading, like I love reading and sharing my story, because when you share your story, you got to live what you talk about.
Yeah.
So as soon as you start sharing your story and getting it out there, people are going to watch you. So you're going to,
that's accountability, right
accountability.
There, eh?
You know, so if you share your story and you all shit, it won't take long and someone's going to go, that fella's all crap, mate. I seen him have a blast the other day. Yeah. So sharing your story actually helps me to keep stable. So that's basically my story. I've got a book.
Yes,
Second
tell
Chance.
us about your book.
You know, it's called Second Chance. I should have called it Second, Third, Fourth and Fifth Chance. But it's, so if anyone wants to get a copy of it, I've got a website called, it's www.itt.org.nz. But I'm on Facebook, so you can hook me up on Facebook.
Adrian Pritchard.
Yeah, just Adrian Pritchard on Facebook. I'm there with a photo of my daughter. So but more than welcome. So if you want one, just let me know, PM me, and we can go from there. But it's a more in-depth story, and it's actually 2,000 of these went into the prison, and I get letters now from inmates who I'd never even met, who heard of me and known of me, just saying how much has helped them stay clean or get clean and stuff like that. So it's a book not just for me, it's a book for everyone. Yeah. It's everyone's story in here. So but contact me any time.
On your Facebook page, eh?
On my Facebook page, and or contact Nick's now. She's my other.
No, on his Facebook page.
Yeah. She's got enough. She doesn't need any more. So that's basically my story anyway. But thank you for the opportunity to share.
No worries.
And be a part of this campaign.
Is there anything else that you wanted to share with us?
No, that's all. Nick, thank you very much for the time, and it's a beautiful day in Wellington. And
awesome.
but hopefully someone out there who can get help. If anyone out there, one thing I do have to say, if anyone is in a addiction right now, put your hand up and say, I need help, because that's staunch. That's the staunchest thing you ever can do in your life, is ask for help.
Yeah.
So don't think it's weak, because it's not. It's actually the staunchest thing you can ever do.
What about anyone that has kind of been through what you went through when you were younger?
Yep.
And it sounds like as well that you didn't have that much support that you could turn to and talk about what you went through. Yeah. Do you think that maybe had you had some kind of support that may have veered you off from going down the road you went down? Yeah,
totally. I strongly believe support, good support is not just mates you know, but people who you don't really know but know they've been there. They can keep you accountable and steer you in the right. Like I get really ho-ha with people who mock counsellors. You know, they're there to help you. And because they don't tick your boxes, you think they're no good. That's not true. So, like, my counsellor's never been to where I've been, but she's very helpful. And if I had her when I was a child, mate, I probably would have never been done that. I would have directed other ways. So being accountable and hooking in with mental health and addiction, DHB services, non-profit organisations, whatever. I'm sure there's one in your area, unless you live in the middle of nowhere, you know. But otherwise, just reach out to us. I know we're a lot of supporters, so a lot of supporters. So just reach out, but like I said, it's staunch to reach out.
Yeah, me and Adrian. Well, thank you so much.
No, thank you so much, Nick,
for sharing your story with us.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it, and we wish you nothing but the best for your future.
Awesome. Thank you very much.